All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Welcome. Whether you're a language teacher, a linguistics student, or just someone fascinated by the beautifully chaotic sounds of human speech, you are in the right place. Today, we're unpacking an absolute cornerstone of language learning. Our focus is 50, English consonants, phonology, spelling, and comparative analysis. We're going to break down the actual, physical mechanics of the mouth, navigate the absolute labyrinth of English spelling, and figure out exactly why these sounds are such a massive hurdle for Spanish speakers to master.
But before we get into the heavy science, get a load of this number, 120. English has just 26 consonant phonemes, 26 distinct units of sound. But somehow we have approximately 120 different ways to spell them.
Yeah.
So if you've ever felt totally frustrated teaching or learning English pronunciation, well, this single number absolutely validates your struggle. The stakes are high, the system is incredibly complex, but we're going to untangle the whole shebang together.
Here is our roadmap for today. First, the sound system mechanics. Second, mapping consonant articulation. Third, fortis, lenis, and energy. Fourth, the spelling labyrinth. Fifth, English versus Spanish consonants. And finally, pedagogical pronunciation solutions.
Okay, kicking things off with Section 1, the sound system mechanics, phonetics versus phonology.
To really grasp the English consonant system, we have to separate phonetics from phonology. And there's this brilliant metaphor from our source material that hits the nail on the head. Think of phonetics as the empirical science. It's just gathering the raw material of speech sounds, looking at acoustics and mouth movements without caring at all about meaning. But phonology? Phonology is the cook. It takes those raw, disconnected ingredients and discovers the rules to organize them into a language system that actually makes sense. So today, we are stepping right into the kitchen. Moving right along to Section 2, mapping consonant articulation. Where and how?
Linguists are basically phonetic detectives, and they use 6 specific forensic markers to classify every single consonant. First up, what is the source of the airstream? Usually it's the lungs. Then, what's the direction? For English, it's pushed out or egressive. Next, are the vocal folds vibrating? Is the soft palate raised or lowered to make nasal sounds? And then we have the 2 really big ones, the place of articulation, like exactly where is the obstruction happening, and the manner of articulation, meaning how that obstruction is made.
It actually helps to picture the whole English consonant system as a giant family tree. It shows exactly how these broad categories branch out. You've got your plosives. These are sounds that build up air and then just burst, like p and b. Then you have fricatives that create friction right alongside your nasals. Every single sound has its own specific little branch on this tree.
Now, the International Phonetic Alphabet, or IPA chart, physically maps out this entire journey. It starts right at the front of your face with the bilabial lips, both lips coming together for sounds like M or B. Then we travel back to the teeth for labiodentals, right back to that alveolar ridge behind your teeth, and all the way back to the velar region, the soft palate at the very back of the mouth for sounds like k and g. It's literally a geographical map of the human vocal tract.
Let's hit Section 3, fortis, lenis, and energy, the power of breath.
We also divide consonants based on the sheer physical effort it takes to produce them. On one side, we have fortis consonants. Just think force. These demand greater muscular energy and a much stronger stream of breath. Because of all that air rushing through, they are generally voiceless. Your vocal cords do not vibrate. Try saying p, t, k, f. It's high energy, lots of air. On the flip side, we have lenis consonants. These use far less muscular energy, but to make up for it, they activate your vocal cords. They're generally voiced. Try b, d, g, v. You can physically feel the vibration in your throat.
And this energy difference isn't just theoretical, it physically manifests in sound waves. A sharp, high-energy fortis wave looks wildly different from a smoother lenis wave. Now, why on earth does this matter? Well, because of a fascinating phonological rule called pre-fortis clipping. In English, when a vowel comes right before a high-energy fortis consonant, the vowel sound literally, physically shortens. So the word self, ending in that fortis F, is actually shorter to say than the word selves, which ends in the lenis V. That invisible energy is warping the words around it. Wild, right?
Which brings us to Section 4, the spelling labyrinth. 120 ways to write 26 sounds.
Let's just pause and appreciate the absolute chaos of one single phoneme, the unvoiced palato-alveolar fricative, the sh sound. You can spell it with an sh, like in she. You can spell it scission in expulsion, or titian in caution. How about sh in schwa? or CH in champagne, or get this, even C or CI in precious. It is wildly, ridiculously unpredictable. Remember that number 120 from the beginning? This is exactly why. The historical baggage of English spelling forces us to memorize all these exceptions, and it creates a massive burden for learners.
All right, moving into Section 5, English versus Spanish consonants, a contrastive analysis.
There is a very stark contrast when you put the phonemic inventories of these two languages side by side. English brings 26 consonant phonemes to the table, but Spanish only has 19. Immediately, that means Spanish speakers have to learn entirely new sounds that literally don't exist on their brain's linguistic map. But it's actually tougher than that. Out of all those sounds, a mere 11 are actually similar between the two languages. That leaves a gigantic phonetic gap to cross.
Let's look at how that gap plays out structurally. Take the sounds B, D, and G. In English, these are almost always hard plosives. They pop. But in Spanish, when those sounds happen between vowels, they soften into continuous, breathy fricatives. So a Spanish speaker's totally natural instinct is to soften a word like ladder or rubber in a way an English speaker just wouldn't do. There is also a massive systemic difference with fricatives. English has 4 distinct pairs of voiced and voiceless fricatives. Spanish only has 5 fricatives total and totally lacks those distinct voiced versus voiceless pairings. Plus, English just loves to stack consonants together into these complex clusters, like the stra and inks in the word strengths. Spanish syllable structure generally avoids doing that, which makes English clusters feel like an incredibly awkward tongue twister. Wrapping up with Section 6, Pedagogical Pronunciation Solutions, Bridging the Gap.
The good news is, because we understand these structural differences, we can predict the exact fricative confusion Spanish speakers are going to make. The English b and v often just get merged into a single sound. The th in this gets replaced by a flat dental de. The buzzing z gets devoiced into a hissing s. As a teacher, you don't have to guess. You can target these exact minimal pairs super efficiently in your lessons. So, what is the actionable game plan here? First, prioritize intelligibility over native perfection. You're aiming for clear global communication. Second, integrate pronunciation into listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Don't just isolate it in a bubble. But listen, if you take only one practical tip away from this entire explainer, let it be this. Teach the aspiration of P, T, and K. Spanish speakers don't naturally push that puff of air out on those letters. Teaching them to aspirate those plosives is an absolute magic bullet. It almost immediately boosts their clarity to English ears.
Before we go, there is this incredibly powerful insight from the source text that perfectly summarizes the mountain learners are climbing. Quote, mastering this system is not merely an exercise in mimicry, but a structural reorganization of their phonetic habits. Think about that. You are literally asking learners to rewire the way their brains and their mouths coordinate. It is a profound neurological and physical shift.
Which leaves us with this final thought to chew on. As educators, or even just as language learners ourselves, we have to look past the surface. Are your students just parroting back sounds, hoping for the best? Or are you actually giving them the phonological tools to truly reorganize their phonetic habits? Because understanding the mechanics, the energy, and those cross-linguistic gaps, that is the real key to true fluency. Thanks so much for diving into the English consonant system with me.